Hello, I wanted to share some mods I've been testing out and experimenting with you in Rimworld. Now, I've seen a lot of other creators do something like this, and I wanted to try my hand at it too, because to try to raise the skill ceiling of Rimworld, and also just take away frustration from the game, I came up with a list partially based on other people's lists, and partially based off of things that I've heard back from you guys, and just things that looked interesting to me. I'm by no means a mod expert, so I have gotten some random error messages on some of these mods, and I'm not 100% sure if everything's compatible, but I think individually each of these mods is pretty cool in its own right, so I wanted to show off some of the ones I've been testing. And I think these are cool because they'll open up the game to new play styles. The first off is Harmony. Harmony is a pretty core essential mod. Humanoid alien races is necessary if you want to change the race of a lot of the characters, so sort of another necessary mod. Hugslib and Jex tools are pretty essential too. They're like core mods that everything else is based on. Mod Manager is actually the one I'm using to make this video, and it makes it so that you can make folders of mods. It's really useful and easy, and I recommend it after all this time. I can't believe I wasn't using it before. So I guess I'll divide this video up into a few parts. Quality of life and UI mods, combat mods, and then just more generally mods that add something to the game that wasn't there before, like biomes or something like that. The first mod is Allow tool, which just adds a lot of UI options to everything that you can do in the game. More planning is really useful because you can actually use colors to plan out your entire base. You can copy and paste plans too, which is very useful. Another quality of life mod is Auto Cut Blight. It just, like, this should be in the vanilla game in my opinion, so. Better workbench management just adds a few UI options that make your life a little bit easier on workbenches. Pretty simple mod. I think most of you guys will know blueprints. Basically, you can just click and drag over something that you've created and make it into a blueprint so that you can use it for later to avoid all that clicking. Better pawn control and colony manager, which I'm going to get into, just add a lot of bulk pawn assignments and kind of take away some of the micromanagement from the game. I mean, for me, I hate micromanaging, so anything that gets rid of it is great. Another thing I hate about Rimworld, I don't just want this to be a list of things I hate, but there's a lot of up and down and grindiness at times, so bulk stone cutting takes away some of this. Camera Plus has a variety of different features. For example, you could zoom out further, you could see dots for your any unit on the map when you're far enough zoomed out, or you could just zoom in closer to name a few things that it does. I haven't fully explored this one yet, but I like it a lot. Color-coded mood bars kind of speaks for itself, but it just makes it more visible for when your colonists are about to experience a mental break or when they're happy. Compact heat ifs, I still haven't really fully experimented yet. I like the look of it, and it gives me more information at a glance, so I hope I get to use this one more. But you'll probably be seeing it in a future series. Common Sense is an amazing mod because you won't get stupid things like, you know, a dirty kitchen. You could actually, I wouldn't recommend this, but putting your butcher table and stove in the same room, and your pawns will just automatically clean before they start cooking. It's something that if I were playing slowly, I would, but it would just be a lot of micromanaging. Don't block door is pretty much just what it sounds like. Colonists won't block the door with goods, which you never want to happen anyway, so again, less micromanaging here. Desire paths I still haven't fully experimented with yet, but it looks cool and it makes the game deeper, so I'm adding it right now. I'll have more to say about this one in the future. Draggable corners is another UI mod, which just makes it so that you don't have to place walls one by one. You could place them in a grid and so on and so forth. Or not a grid, a square. Doormats is another quality of life one. Some people think that this is kind of cheating, but I mean, who tracks so much dirt into a room? It's kind of like a what you think should be in the game. Useful to have it. I probably am going to try it. Down for me is a little bit hard to explain, but basically if a colonist is hurt, you can down them and then actually tend to them right there on the spot rather than having to wait for them to go back. It's kind of hard to explain the scenario this would happen in. Basically, if a pawn got, like, hurt very far from a medical bed, or you could also do this to play dead. There's a couple uses for this one, but it's kind of a quality of life thing. Drug response is nice because you can't, like, get a scratch and then have to give it Glitter World medicine as a response and have to micromanage all that. You can actually say what you want to respond to certain maladies with. Dubwise has made a lot of great mods I'm going to include in here. The minimap just adds more data visualization to the game, and I'm just really passionate about data visualization, so anything I could do to add more of this into the game is cool. Dynamic diplomacy is interesting because so much of the game is just focused on your one faction, but this actually makes it feel more like you're living in an alive world where stuff happens. Dub's paint shop, I'm pretty much gonna call necessary now. I don't know if this one might confuse you or if you don't like vanilla. Now, you might be stubborn to just have everything be vanilla colors, but hey, it's an added option, so just coloring other stuff in the game is kind of cool and I think necessary. There's also a Dub Skylights mod, which just does that, adds skylights. It's cool, it adds more three-dimensionality to the world. I'm definitely gonna be playing with this in the future. I don't know if I'll use it, but just giving me the option is nice. Prepare carefully, I won't go too much into. It just lets you customize characters. It's absolutely necessary and I highly recommend it. Follow Me is another UI kind of camera mod. It just lets you follow around a colonist. And for me, a lot of the series takes place in kind of the role-playing aspect, so I don't know if this will be nice for you, but just being able to follow around one of your pawns like you do in Kenshi when you press a hotkey is nice. Heat map is another interesting new mod where you can actually just see all of the temperatures in the rooms visually. It's nice to get a quick glance of how your colony is doing, temperature-wise. I always felt like the vanilla animals trained in hauling didn't do enough, so I'm going to be adding hardworking animals to my next playthrough. Another amazing one is hotkeys. Probably the one thing that Dwarf Fortress has on Rimworld is that it has just slightly more hotkeys. Albeit you're forced to play with hotkeys in Dwarf Fortress, but I use them a lot in just everyday computing, so hotkeys is nice. Hunt for Me I haven't used yet, but I'm adding it here because it seems cool. You can have your trained animals train themselves in hunting, and they could actually hunt animals for you, which is interesting. It makes the game deeper, and I like that, so I'm using it. Just Ignore Me Passing is another one that's pretty much essential, especially in larger colonies with more colonists. For example, they can't build a door when somebody's passing, so this is a really nice mod to have for that. I could talk about this mod for days, but I wish it were in the vanilla. Jobs of opportunity while you're up. So for example, hauling while colonists are going over to do another task. You feel like they legitimately have common sense when you use this mod. Level up bears mentioning. I think that so much of the game is about a sense of progression to me, and when I see a colonist actually level up, make a noise, and then glow for a second whenever they advance in a level in something, it makes this sense of progression a lot more felt, so I'm adding this mod to my list. Locks is a mod by Avius, and it goes really well with prison labor. Another good quality of life mod. I don't know if this is to taste, but a lot of people say that this looks like Prison Architect. Labels on floor is really cool because they are very responsive labels and they just look nice on things. So often my colonies feel disorganized, and when I put these on, it just helps me gain some composure. I guess I'd call mad skills, like, I don't know, game-changing, but it's very dissatisfying to watch your pawns regress. So I think adding mad skills, which pretty much just lets you customize that rate or make it so that they don't lose skill at all, makes the game a lot more satisfying for me. Map reroll is a really nice mod. It just lets you customize your settlement zone. So if you don't like the place that you start at, you could just re-roll it, or re-roll the geysers or any other number of options, and it gives you a whole new map to play on. Map Designer I haven't actually tried yet, but I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. You could design your own maps. I still have yet to use this, but it looks amazing, so I'm adding it to my list. Medical tab is another quality of life one, but it just adds a whole new tab where you have a lot of options for how you want to tend to your colonists, what sorts of debuffs they're experiencing. It's a nice thing to have just to add more visualization. I don't know why this isn't in the base game, but Mend and Recycle by Not Food is just amazing. I haven't really used this one yet, but I've always wanted something to do with all of those crappy pieces of clothing rather than just sell them all. Burn It for Fuel is another mod that makes the game a little bit deeper, and you can burn several different types of things for fuel rather than just wood, which often feels kind of, I don't know, gamey or cheesy. Metal don't burn? I've said enough already right there. Metal does not burn. We need it in the game. Minify everything is interesting because there's certain structures where you have to deconstruct them, then your pawns have to take back the bricks, and it just becomes this tedium. So just to be able to uninstall any object is really useful. Probably something I'm just going to use forever from now. My Little Planet is a really cool map generation mod. It basically just lets you make the planet smaller, because the Rimworld world is just huge, and I always thought there should be different sized worlds. I haven't tried this with like Save Our Ship or anything, but I don't know, maybe there's a way to go to different worlds. Pick Up and Haul is also an amazing mod. Colonists more efficiently use their space when they haul. Pharmacist lets you customize which medicine is used for which wound. So this is really nice so that they don't use Glitter World medicine on like a scratch or something like that. Prepare Landing is another quality of life mod, which kind of starts out like the Dwarf Fortress embarkment screen where you can choose where and how you want to set out. You could customize some parameters, say what temperature you want to be at, Really nice idea. Quality of building just adds more visualization. Normally in the game, you can't see the difference between an excellent, poor, masterwork quality item, but it actually lets you see that visually on the item. So this is a really nice mod. Quality Builder is really cool too, because you can specify exactly what quality you want on a new construction, and your colonists will just keep on building until they get at least that quality. Quality of Surgeon is another quality of life mod. Basically, if there's a major operation, you don't want just like your, basic tenders to do that. You want your best doctor to do that surgery. So this allows that reservation to be made. Rangefinder is another combat/quality of life mod. It just makes ranged combat like a little bit more easy to handle, especially for multiple shooters at once. I found that it makes it that I don't need to pause so much during combat, which I kind of hate pausing during combat because it kind of kills the action for me. So if you can actually see your colonist range when you draft them permanently or momentarily, it's nice. Realistic rooms is another mod that just makes the game, well, more realistic. I've found that pawns' rooms need to be a little bit too extravagant to be nice. It kind of lowers some of those requirements in terms of the spaces. Recipe icons now adds information for each recipe that you make. Just more information is always a good thing, so I figure why not add it. Relations tab is another graphical overhaul mod. So instead of seeing a faction tab, you have a relations tab. I haven't really used this one much, but I really like Fluffy's mods, and I know that anything more visualized is useful. So trying to make the game as visual as possible is really nice. Replace stuff, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen. You could just change the material of any item pretty quickly. Again, this decreases the number of clicks, the amount of micromanaging, so really useful. Research Pal. I love Research Pal because it totally reorganizes the research tree. The only thing I would add, I don't know if I just don't know how to do this yet, is to zoom in and out of the research, just to see it all in front of me. But it's all color-coded. It's really pretty. It's nice to use. You can queue research. Highly recommend this one. Rimworld takes a little bit of getting used to, but basically it just displays all of your colonists' needs, mood, gear, their skills and other information that's useful, all on one spot rather than having to go through tabs. I like this one. I'm actually going to stick with this mod from now on. Heat stats, I haven't really trekked out much, but it looks cool, so I want to try it. Room Sense is another mod that pretty much just lets you see the quality of all your rooms at a glance. Normally, you have to go through rooms. I don't really have too much trouble with this, but it's color-coded, which is nice, and it's very graphical. RPG-style inventory is actually optional. You can toggle it on or off if you hate it or like it. I like this one again because it's graphical. Just anything that makes the game more graphical is usually nice. Share the load. Are you tired of having one colonist bring resources to a new construction at a time? Then look no further. Share the load is really, really nice because multiple people can do it. Again, this just picks up on efficiency and makes your life faster. I don't know if I'd consider this quality of life or combat, but Show Draftee's weapon is really nice because I don't think I would play without this now. You make fewer stupid mistakes when you do it. Show Mod Designators is a subtle but pretty important mod. I used to not play with mods as much because I was thinking, okay, well, I'm still learning the base game, so I won't know if something is a mod or in the base game if I just add mods like crazy, so I stopped playing with mods for a while. But Show Mod Designators actually shows you when you press the information button on anything, whether or not something is a mod. And it shows you what mod it's from, too. So kind of an overlooked, but a really important mod there. Simple Search Bar adds a search bar to any, storage windows. Just kind of speeds up the process of going through all your storage. And sometimes it's hard to remember whether something's manufactured or a natural resource in the game's library. So I like this. I probably won't be playing without it anytime soon. Skilled Stonecutting used to be in the game. Basically, it just gives you experience for stonecutting. I was tired of colonists not gaining any experience for stonecutting because they don't gain skill in anything when they do stonecutting as it is, at least as far as I know. So it just adds that sense of progression and role-playing to each character. And I like this. It makes the game more satisfying, so I added it. I was tired of having all my colonists lose their hair whenever they put on a hat and all start to look alike in the end of the game. So showing hair with hats is kind of nice. It just brings out the characterization. And for a game that's about story, it's just a nice thing to have. Smart Medicine, like the medicine system, especially for wounds that happen away from your base, kind of feels like it needs an overhaul. So Smart Medicine is really nice. Adds speed and quality of life, normally things you would be micromanaging. I used to be cruel to my colonists and beat them up whenever they were having mental breaks, but Snap Out is actually really interesting and kind of increases the sense that this game is like The Sims. And I know a lot of people who play Rimworld like The Sims a lot, so for a more socially skilled, friendly colonist to be able to help a colonist come back from a mental break kind of adds character depth to the game, and I found it interesting, so I'd suggest trying this one. Textile stats, I'm tired of looking things up on the wiki, so Try it out. Turret Hunt is nice. Instead of having to aggro and anger animals to get them to come to you, you could just have your turrets do it, which is, I mean, it's more automation, it's very satisfying. Trait rarity colors, how I love you. You add more colors to the game and that's worth it. It actually color codes based on how rare the traits are. Amazing, right? Ugh, you got me. Just adds a lot more depth to social fighting. Colonists won't do things that are seemingly just outrageous to each other, unless if they're really like masochists or bloodlusters. Again, it adds character depth and I like that. And they also won't just like hurt somebody who's brutally injured. Weapon stats. So I'm pretty terrible with checking out every single gun's stats and so on and so forth, but this adds another tab that you can actually just see what everybody's holding and how good it is. You know, obviously you have to count for things like range and so on and so forth, but it just adds a little bit more information you're missing. So instead of having to click into the information screen, you could just use what's missing to figure out what you're missing from a recipe. It's all color-coded again, really nice. Where is my weapon just reduces the number of clicks again. If a colonist gets down, they'll drop their weapon. So it's nice to just be able to have them pick it up right when they get up. Wall light is useful because it's probably going to make all my bases from now on look more organized. Wild animal sex. It should exist in the game. Animals deserve love too. Oh, work tab. So many good things to say. Everything that frustrated you about the work tab is gone. This is an amazing mod by Fluffy. You could separate all of the different types of work out into even more different types of work, and it also doesn't force you to do that much micromanaging with it. You could do as much as you want or as little as you want. I'm definitely not using this as much, but I'm gonna have to do a lot less forcing of priorities when I start using this well. Okay, let's get on to combat mods. Achtung is I'm probably not saying that right. Pardon me. It lets you line up your colonists, and not just that. The reason I'm using this is because I just don't like the regular military lineup in the main game. It's nice to have. Careful raids just adds a little bit more, how to say this, common sense among your raiders. Like, they'll try multiple paths. Kind of hard to see it at work, but this should be in the game. Like, people wouldn't just blindly run into a bunch of traps. They make better decisions. Combat update 1.1, I haven't experimented with a lot, but it just makes combat a little bit more responsive, a little bit more satisfying. I really like it. I'm gonna use it, but there's definitely more to explore here. Damage indicators just adds that little extra bit of visualization in combat and makes every hit a little bit more satisfying. If you thought the game was unresponsive, then this is gonna change that. Defensive positions is a simple quality of life military mod. Pretty much you could just save defensive positions for your colonists, so you could have different places where they line up. Really satisfying to just be able to draft all your colonists and not have to line them all up and micromanage. Anything that makes combat faster is nice. Embrasures, I'm sure you know. Pretty much you can just set up your colonists to fire from behind a wall, like through a little slit in the wall. They're really cool when you build them. Some people think it's cheating. I don't know if I would go back anymore though. I like it that much. Run and gun is awesome. Some people think this is a little bit overpowered, but raiders can actually do this too. So you can move while you're running, albeit at a kind of a combat penalty. It can also be customized, so this is a nice mod to have. Just the more options you have in combat, I think the more depth it adds to the game. And that kind of increases the sense of choice and role-playing in the story, so I'm gonna keep this one from now on. Search and Destroy is also an interesting mod. You can pretty much just set up the AI to do all your combat for you. I've had mixed experiences with this, but I haven't really tried it out much yet. It's just nice to have another option in combat, though. I'm throwing Wave Survival under combat mods. Pretty much it adds a new game mode where you just get raided every few days, and instead of thinking about building toward a ship, you're just thinking about survival, which is kind of cool. It adds a new storyteller too, this guy. I'm probably going to be playing with this in a new series soon, just because I want to change up the end goals. It also just adds this cool sense of urgency. Anyway, that's enough on Wave Survival. Try it out. Oh, also avoid friendly fire. Obviously this one should be in the main game. I just hate any time that friendly fire happens, and it just cuts down on micromanagement. Anyway, you could toggle it on or off too if it's bothering you. I think that's it on combat mods. Let's get on to the real game-changing mods. This is the fun part. So many colonists in Rimworld just suck. So bad can be good, adds some positive traits to negative qualities. Again, it adds depth, and I like it. I'm putting it in. There's about a bazillion vanilla Rimworld expanded mods in here. Like, I have nothing but amazing things to say about vanilla Rimworld expanded. One of you guys told me it's what it's like if Tynan had just continued to add content over and over. There's more storytellers, there's more furniture, there's more animals. This mod set is just outrageously awesome. Like, I could go on for videos and videos about this mod. It retextures things, it adds weapons, it adds lasers, it adds new factions. It's a beautiful mod. Or really not mod, but a whole set of mods. I'm not going to do it justice right here, so I'm just going to go say get them. Like, they were the first mods that a lot of you guys suggested to me. Okay, vanilla weapons retexture. I'm just bored of seeing the same weapons, so I'm retexturing them. This looks kind of cool. I'm giving it a try. I love Misc robots. You get Roombas, and not just Roombas, you get hauling bots, mining bots. There's something called an Omnibot you can unlock, which just does everything. They're really late game robots and they're hard to craft too, so it's not so overpowered because you have to do a lot of work to get to this point. But when you get them, it's really awesome. Misc robots adds a lot more. I think I already said some of these in the first one. Beautiful outdoors. I've waited for this mod for a while and I can't believe I never thought of it more. I never got why pawns just got upset and angry when they were walking through a beautiful natural landscape. So it kind of rescores the beauty of a tree, for example. Like, they aren't pissed off when they see a tree, they think it's beautiful. And I found that my colonists aren't like upset when they walk through nature, you know, that doesn't really make sense to me. Water is particularly beautiful. The biomes mods just add more interesting environments. I probably haven't fully experimented with these enough. I use them for my island survival series, so I'll definitely be coming back here. Consolidated traits just adds more traits. I've seen a lot of the same types of colonists, so I think adding more traits adds character depth. Let's keep that. Doors Expanded adds a whole new selection of doors to the game. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller. There's different types of doors, like blast doors, for example. You could even open up remote doors. It just adds more interesting options. Medicine production. So I haven't used Luciferium, and I'm trying to look for an excuse to use it in one of my next playthroughs, so just the ability to craft it, I think, would be a good entryway, I can't believe I'm saying this, entryway step into using Luciferium. Which, if you don't know, Luciferium can actually kill your colonists if they get too much withdrawal, but it also has a lot of positive effects on them. Like, for example, you could make a colonist into a Luciferium super soldier. Fish industry adds fishing to the game. It's a whole other system. It's cool. I'll be excited to try this one. Fertile fields. I'm actually a little bit undecided on this one right now because there's so many farming mods. Another one is vegetable garden, which I've used a bit, but this one allows terraforming and a lot of other things. You also have plant scraps, which are kind of cool. I'm not 100% sure on this one yet, but you can also change the soil richness. It just adds more options to farming. Again, there's a lot of mods you could choose from here. Which ones do you guys use? I wish I knew more what to say about fluffy breakdowns. All I really know is some appliances break down and adds this maintenance aspect. I really like Fluffy's other mods, so I'm adding this one in. Giddy Up actually allows you to have colonists ride animals, both in combat and in caravans. Just a really interesting mod that adds a whole lot more use to animals. I've pretty much had to slaughter all my animals in the last few playthroughs, so I want more of an excuse to play with them, so I'm adding this in. Glitter Tech adds a lot of late game technology, and there's really not a reason a lot of the time to build into the late game technologies. I often just go straight for the ship, but I don't really want to go for the ship in the next few playthroughs because I've just done it so much. I feel like it's a very one-dimensional way to play the game, so maybe building a futuristic city is one of your goals. It looks cool to me. I just wish I had more experience with it. Gunplay is kind of like an animation mod. It just makes combat more cinematic. It adds like more visibility to bullets. I like this one a lot. It makes combat more tangible and seemingly responsive. You'll kind of see it as I go through the next few series. Gradient hair, because, I don't know, the colonist hair gets boring after a while. I just think this adds more depth. Organ harvest, no more said. Post-mortem, if you're into that kind of thing. Rim fridge is nice because, hey, we have fridges right now. Why should we have to go into a walk-in fridge every single time we want food? It adds a little option to put a miniature fridge, say, for example, in your dining room. It just cuts down on the amount of walking and adds more furniture options. I'll probably be using this one a lot more in the future. You've seen deep storage in my last series. Pretty much, it prevents these massive stockpiles from lining up. And there is a cost associated with it too. It's not so overpowered because your colonists actually have to dig through the storage, but it just makes things a little bit more, I don't know, visually appealing. Plus, this can be done in real life. You don't have to put everything all over the floor. So I'm keeping it. I've always felt like colonists got too perturbed at things that they shouldn't get perturbed by, and not perturbed enough by things that they should be more perturbed by. So no sympathy for prisoners kind of changes that. It's like if somebody attacked your faction and something bad happened to them, you wouldn't be pissed off. It prevents all those mental breaks from stacking up. Outfitted seems nice because it adds more options to, you know, saying what kinds of clothes or what kinds of apparel or items a colonist should be wearing. Open the windows is amazing. Why? I didn't realize until now that there were no windows in the game. Combined with nature is beautiful, this is really amazing because you can just look out the window and actually raise the beauty of a room if it has a good view outside. Again, it just adds like more of a sense of realism and quality of life. It also adds light to those rooms. and there's different types of windows based on what technology you have available. So it's not so easy. It also changes the temperature too. So this is kind of like adding a whole new system into the game. Prison labor, again, just adds a whole new system into the game. You can make your prisoners work on things. You could actually use them for labor rather than just having them, you know, sit there and loiter in their rooms. I combine this with prisoner recreation because I like my prisoners to have one common room. It just adds a lot more depth and realism to the whole prisoner system. It makes it feel much deeper and more satisfying. Prisoner ransom as well. I'm going to try this one out. You can demand ransom for imprisoned pawns for silver at the comms console. It just adds a lot more incentive around prisoners. Psychology, I haven't really used much. This is supposed to make the game way deeper in terms of the life of your colonists, but I've only just barely scratched the surface with it. It's been around for a long time, so I'm kind of ashamed to say that, but I'm going to be trying it out over the next few videos. Quarry is really useful for prisoners. Basically, it adds a way to get more rocks, because so often the stupidest thing is just running out of rocks on your map. So you can dig underground, and while we're kind of waiting on Z levels to be perfected, because that mod is also amazing, Quarry is a really good other option. Plus, it just adds this kind of like bottomless place where you could just keep getting more and more rocks. Raids, for me, adds more depth to your relationship with other factions. Basically, as far as I can tell, you can just insult other factions, and, you know, rather than trying to please everyone all the time, it's nice to be able to have this option. Raise the Roof is satisfying because, I don't know if you recall, but in my last series, some raiders dropped into my throne room and just destroyed all of the furniture, and there was no way to defend from it. I guess I could have built under a mountain, but it just gives you more options on roof types to prevent stuff like that. I guess this one would be kind of considered a game changer mod. Basically, I don't like how filth just stays out in the world, so yeah, rain should be getting rid of that. It wasn't there to begin with, so why should it just stay there now that our colony's built up? I guess I'll just show off some of the other things offered by Vanilla Expanded. There's tons of new furniture, tons of new armor, apparel, and it just adds a lot of things that seem really true and genuine to the Rimworld, I don't know, look and feel. I really like the idea and the design for these mods, so if I were to just pick out one, I'd probably add the Vanilla Expanded set. And if you're new to modding, I'd encourage you to try that, maybe with some of the quality of life stuff. But yeah, it's just top-notch stuff. It's amazing what these guys are doing. Set up camp, because you shouldn't have to make a new settlement anytime you just want to mine some stones and then leave a place. I don't think I talked about simple sidearms before, but it does just that. It lets you give your pawns like a melee weapon for close combat or a short-range weapon for short-range combat. Really nice stuff, and it plays pretty nicely with other mods. It also adds a cool little UI button for switching back and forth between weapons. Hunters use melee because they should be able to do it. I think there's a couple mods for this, so you have some options there. Simply More Bridges adds the option of building over water, kind of more Dwarf Fortressian. I really like having this option, and maybe I could build an ocean base at some point, so I'm definitely going to be using this one. Plus, you could build heavier things over the water. Solar Flared stun mechanoids because, well, they should. Subsurface Conduit is a very fair mod. Basically, if you don't know this already, conduits like detract from the beauty of any given spot. So if you put them underground, it actually just takes that away. But there is a lot of extra work associated with this, and a little bit more metal because they have to bury the wires. I really like this, and I hope that you try it out. One of the last ones, but definitely not least, is androids. This adds so much new stuff to the game. It's been out for a while, but pretty much it adds 4 or 5, I think, with the ones I added, new tiers of androids. And they're these types of colonists that are, well, they're robots. They can work all night. They pretty much have no emotions, and there's just a lot of customizability behind these guys. They can upgrade themselves. I might even do a whole series of just androids to show them off. And in the end, when you're done, you can actually do all these later future technologies, like upload a colonist consciousness into like this supercomputer. They need their own repair kits, but I felt like that these were just right at home in the game, so I threw them in. Though there's tons of other race mods. If you want to check some of those out, my friend Coco made a video on this that I found really useful. Rimatomics, I really just don't have enough to say about. I have to experiment with this one a lot more, but it seems amazing in terms of energy, nukes, nuclear weapons, like a whole new system to the game. The last ones, I guess, are Industrial Rollers and Rim Factory. These can pretty much make Rimworlds into like Factorio or Satisfactory or whatever have you. They add whole new systems and really are videos unto themselves. I've found them really useful for automated planting and also creating rollers that automatically haul things from stockpile to stockpile. It's really, really satisfying to watch it happen. So if you're just feeling like a different experience entirely, I felt like that this was a cool mod that I might use in the future. It might be a playthrough unto itself, so I don't know if it really belongs in this list, but it deserves mentioning. And also Miscraftable Robots and their retexture, just because I didn't really like the original textures that much. and I just felt like that these fit in more. So that was really too long a video. I hope you learned something in this video, or found a mod that looks interesting to you. Once again, I'm gonna credit a lot of the other creators that I kind of discovered these mods through down below. I hope you go check out some of their videos, because they kind of go into more depth than I did. I tried to cover more quantity than quality, but I'll put links down there below. Like I said, I haven't been making as much content just because I'm really interested in the systems of this game. There's some interesting stuff you could come up with here. And I mean, Rimworld is, after all, a storyteller, so this greatly enhances the number of storytelling the amount of storytelling you could do. One thing I'll say is I didn't really go into any completely game-changing mods. Like, you could do medieval or Lord of the Rings Rimworld, or Star Wars. There's so many different options, but I didn't want to do anything that would be too game-changing. Like, there's a mod where you can just grow people off of plants. There's a lot of crazy, amazing mods that I have on a separate list, but I don't know, maybe that's kind of like a video unto itself. I mainly want to do quality of life, combat, and just mods that make the game have more depth and still seem pretty genuine to the Rimworld universe. Not that the other ones aren't, but just they're more game-changing, I don't know. Anyway, last disclaimer is just I'm not an expert on these mods, so if I said something wrong about them, I tried to do a decent amount of justice to each one, but obviously I didn't want this to go on for like 50 videos, so feel free to correct me down below. I don't know if they play well together either. Some of them definitely don't play well together either, because I've got some error messages loading up, but I don't know, maybe I'm just an idiot. Anyway, what kinds of mods do you guys use? It's more just like to open up a dialogue this video, which a lot of you guys did recommend these mods to me, so thank you for that. But pretty much I'm just, I'm kind of fishing for ideas right now and looking to see what excites me for the next series, so I'm thinking it's gonna be androids, but could be Luciferium Super Soldier. I don't know, there's a lot of options, but this kind of expands my imagination. Anyway, I hope this video did something like that for you. I hope you enjoyed. As always, my name's Ambiguous Amphibian, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.